fingers for the stream. All right, so we are live right now with Master Chats with the Latte Art
Oh,
Masters, Haley Henderson and Prof. You see their information here on our screen. If you want to follow them on Instagram, you'll be glad you did because they really are masters at latte art, and it will inspire you to great heights in your craft as a barista. And that's really what Coffee Fest Latte Art Competition World Championship Open is about, is showcasing great artists like these. And we're excited to have been doing this competition for quite a long time. If you're just tuning in, my name is Chris DeFurio. I am the host of Keys to the Shop and also a longtime presenter and head judge of latte art at Coffee Fest. So I get to see these guys pour all the time. It's really an awesome honor and kind of scary, kind of nerve-wracking. So to have to judge these pours because these guys are monsters. I really want to start by thanking our sponsors here at Master Chats, starting with Slow Pour, who has just been such a huge supporter of latte artists at Coffee Fest. They are supporting Master Chats today. They build a community around craft latte art. For all these years, they've been doing that. Beyond supplying the best latte art pitchers on the market, I'm surprised sometimes when people don't pour with slow pour pitchers these days, honestly. The slow pour features the latest and greatest brew gear and all of that other stuff to fuel your coffee passion. So today's guests and all the guests on Master Chats are receiving the newest Oria V2 brewer, which is pretty awesome, the Chestnut C2 Max grinder to help them stay caffeinated on the road of Coffee Fest, which I don't think they need help doing. And they also will receive a pair of origami cups to practice their pouring. And these are all official competition cups for the U.S. Latte Art Championships, or the competition in April's Boston SCA show. So Slow Pour wishes all the competitors the best of luck in New York City. And I know that talking to you two, you've been practicing like crazy. So that's awesome. And also big thanks to the Barista Series. Omnipresent, super amazing product. Everything they make is just latte art. And so alternative milk beverages, plant-based performance beverages on the Barista Series is something that we definitely want to encourage people to use on their bars because, I mean, if you want a great experience for your guests and your baristas to pour amazing tulips and hearts and things like that, then I mean the Barista Series is where it's at, and they've been a longtime supporter of barista culture for ages unknown, I think. So huge thank you to the Barista Series. Check them out, and yeah, let's get the party started, guys. So
oh,
Haley Henderson is a latte artist who's been with us since 2017 and has a lot of competition history in that time. Looking at your roster right now, and you are consistently in the top tier of latte artists at the Coffee Fest Latte Art Competition, top 16 latest in San Antonio. So, and no doubt going to repeat the same thing, if not better, here in New York City. And then Prof, only since 2019. I say only because you've accomplished so much in that short period of time. Two-time Coffee Fest champion, two in a row, I should mention. And you are consistently a top place finisher at Coffee Fest and bring a lot of spirit and energy with you wherever you go. So with these questions, we're going to just kind of talk about your careers and what got you into the business of latte art and coffee, and have a good conversation. So Haley, I think we'll start with you. I guess an open question would be like, what got you hooked on latte art to begin with, and competition, and really how have you seen that particular part of your career benefit your whole career?
Uh, yeah. Well, thanks for having me on. It's kind of a huge honor, so thank you. My first coffee shop job was in like right out of high school, 2013, and I didn't know anything about barista culture, third wave coffee. I didn't know anything. But I thought looking at latte art like on Instagram was really cool. I followed like One Way Ellie, One Way Dash, and I just thought they were just like the coolest. And I got to
Mm,
meet them in Los Angeles in 2019, and that was like the craziest thing. Um, but yeah, I just like it's a creative outlet for me. I like making things that my customers enjoy. It's fun to improve on my own. I didn't compete for years and years. I went to a couple local things in 2015 and I did really bad at those. And I don't know, my coworker Robin had been to some coffee fests before me and I just thought it was really cool and I wanted to try. And so 2017 is my first coffee fest and it like changed my life. Um,
mm,
you get to meet so many like artists, other coffee professionals that you wouldn't have met otherwise. And it's just a great way to like see the industry in a different way than you would like in your hometown where
mm-hmm.
you're always at. So I love that about it.
Nice. Yeah, and yeah, I think that hits on something that I feel happens a lot with things like Coffee Fest and competitions is that community that you were in when you were at your shop. All of a sudden, the world gets really big, or
Yes.
small, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That
Yep. Yep.
community. What about you, Prof?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and Chris. It's a humbling honor to be here with you amazing people to talk about coffee, right? Like, who says they can talk about their job for fun?
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, I started working at Gregory's Coffee in 2015 summer, so like almost about to be 2016. And they had a really cool introductory program run by Bailey I believe she's with Oatly right now.
Yeah.
So Bailey ran a really amazing system at Gregory's from like introductory, just steaming, telling you how to properly dial in espresso, how from fine, of course, just the overall stuff. And then they gave us a little latte art workshop on the last day. And as I see this woman making art with just coffee and milk, I'm just like, what? Is this possible? And I made like a tiny little heart in my like 8 ounce cappuccino that day, which wasn't too impressive, but it was enough to impress me to be like, wow, I could make art while I'm, working. And a big thing with me, I've always loved rap music. I used to read the dictionary growing up, so like I was always in that form of trying to better a craft or an art form. And now I'm like, wait, I can work, make ends meet, and still kind of get into the creative side. So that's how it
Mm,
started, and they basically held a like a Gregory's Coffee community throwdown, and I didn't really reach too far in there, but it's just the fact that I'm here competing and the prize was like $300 for the win. I'm like, oh, and you can make a little bit of money while competing. That's really cool.
mm-hmm.
And whatever, the night didn't end up me as winner, as like in a superhero movie. That's probably how it ends, or like a movie. Oh yeah, Prof, yeah, he wins, and then the story. Nah, I lost in like the first round, horribly. Milk was thin. I was shaking. Friend Javier tells me about Coffee Fest,
Mm-hmm.
and then the rest is history. It's just like it was always, I guess, like attention grabber and then addictive kind of like environment for me, like from the beginning. But when I saw how Coffee Fest was, it was just like it blew my mind. Just
Mm-hmm.
it's an
Yeah.
atmosphere that's like very, very like if you go in one Coffee Fest, the amount of experience you get from just one can change a coffee professional's life. Like after that, just one experience.
Yeah, well said. And shout out to Espresso State of Mind, Joe and
Whoop,
Javi over
whoop.
there. A lot of work to connect community. So yeah, I feel like when you get into latte arts, you're definitely entering into a culture. It's a subculture of coffee, and it's just that much more energy it gives you to continue on in your profession. Sometimes what you do as a barista is very well. Of course, it's repetitive, right? And so you need some spice. You need some things to sort of mix it up. And it seems like for both of you, this aha moment, this fascination, similar to even my own just discovering latte art through like David Schomer's books, like way back in the day. And it opens up that world and provides that energy for you. And so as now you've been in competition for a long time, and you're both such accomplished latte artists, I guess the question is, for your careers as baristas, outside the world of latte art, how has the focus on latte art really helped you become a better professional with what you do day in and day out with customers and the cafe, etc.?
I think like because latte art is very detail focused, like because it's kind of like a fascination, it's also kind of like an obsession with like every
Mm-hmm.
part of it has to be perfect. It's made me very conscious of every part of our service and the quality of service we provide to our customers. And I feel like that has made me a better coffee professional, especially like when, you know, having your cup be clean, having the design be in the center, like it can't be like all over the place. Like just really small things can make a difference to like the service to your customers. And like as a somebody who is training now, I feel like I'm helping baristas be better because of those experiences,
Mm-hmm.
because I know how to explain it better.
Because you're paying attention more to those details, other areas that you probably clean a bathroom in the cafe better than you ever have before, just because you were working on a Rosetta.
Yeah, sure. Like anything that like has to do with like somebody's experience, like for some years it was like, okay, only latte art matters, but then as you get going to this competition, like everything else starts to like matter more. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, to like piggyback on what Haley said, yeah, it definitely helps you center your focus on like the detail orientation of like serving coffee to somebody versus like anybody can get a good coffee anywhere, and if it's not that good, throw some milk and sugar. But what do people come for is the experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like give them my perfect version of what like a latte should be, and now that I can incorporate these amazing latte images onto a cup, it just, like you said, Chris, it motivates you. All right, cool. Once you drop that latte to the customer, you see their smile, it kind of gives you that energy to like, let me clean the condiment station just cause, let me like go fix the grab and go, like if my art is going to be immaculate, let's make the whole store immaculate too.
Nice. I like how you tied your Instagram handle into that answer. Immaculate artistry. That's good. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that I have to ask because it is an obsession, and I like what you said, Haley, about how for a little bit it's like nothing else matters except for latte art. Like you find this thing and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is the meaning of life. I mean, this. How could anything else matter? And
Right.
yeah, that's when I got, when I worked at a coffee bar, I got written up or reprimanded for ignoring everything else.
Yeah, good for
Uh,
you, Chris. Good for
yeah,
you.
yeah. Well, I'm dedicated. I got punished, but I took one for the team. No, I'm
Exactly.
kidding. But the focus does change as you realize, man, this does help, and it does bleed over into other areas. So, I'm curious about, from both of your perspectives, some of the things that you have to overcome. I know, personally in competition, going through gallons of milk to practice, oftentimes at night or very early in the morning. And then you get to competition. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of people that you've studied up on. Um, there's this nerve. There's this nervousness, right? And you overcome adversity in some ways when you're competing. You're competing against yourself often. So I'm kind of curious about what challenges in particular stand out to you both about your journey in pursuing competition, latte art and competition, that you had to overcome, and how did you overcome it?
I guess my first competition was the most challenging thing I ever did. And I think for a lot of people, your first Coffee Fest competition or your first throwdown or any of your first thing where you're in front of people doing something is probably the most challenging thing. Um, that first Coffee Fest I went to in Portland, I applied and I did not get in. And I was very bummed. But my coworker told me about the alternates list and was like, look, if you get there really early, like you can sign up and you will pour. And I got there really early, but I was 13th on the alternate list. So, like, really far down. I was literally packing my stuff up. Like, I was like, this is not happening. Like, it was in like that fourth quarter of the bracket.
Hmm.
I was like, I just am here for no reason. I didn't know anybody at that competition. I didn't know anybody in Portland. Sorry, there's noise outside my apartment.
It's good. They're all there to hear you.
Oh my god. Anyway, I finally got called up like in the last second, and I like my stuff was like put away, so I just like ran up there and poured something, and I won my round somehow, and
Hey,
it like changed my life. Like, I was just like this girl like there. I think people like didn't know why I was there, and then I won my round, and a couple of people came up to me and were like, "Who are you?" So it it was probably the craziest thing I ever did, but like doing that, like I just kept applying and kept going to Coffee Fest and just kept getting better,
Hmm.
learning each time. And I think just getting up, even just like as an alternate and just being like, I'm just going to do my best right now, that's the hardest
Yeah.
thing you can do, but it's worth it.
yep, yep.
On that note, I'm curious, as an alternate who shows up and your emotions have already sort of gone the direction of like this is over, and then you get called up. Do you feel that you were less nervous in that moment than you would have been if you had gone up earlier? Like after you gave up, you just
Yeah.
like let the pressure off yourself, and then now you feel like you can perform better?
That time, yeah, because I've gotten into the show every other time I've applied. And
Hmm.
every other time I like psych myself out a little bit more
Hmm.
than usual because I know I'm going to pour. But that time, like I thought I was just going to go home. And like when they called my name, it was like just like adrenaline, basically. So I know it sounds like kind of intense, but it really felt like that. I was like, okay, like I guess I'm going to do this. So
Yeah, awesome. What about you, Prof?
Yeah, it's kind of like a surge of like anxiety and excitement. So, so I would say for me the biggest thing was just like, because I'm a very passionate man, right? Um, whenever I get into something that I really like, I like to give it my best, and I like to do my best and give it my all as well. So, obviously as an alternate first time, you're like, all right, I'm basically here and nobody even is expecting me to be here. So that pressure was kind of off. Then I was like, I hear this guy, I believe I faced Abner from Puerto Rico,
Mm,
first round. He's a well-rounded coffee professional, right?
yeah.
And this is during the stages of like competition mentality where I kind of, I'm a beginner, so I have a lot of people on a pedestal. And we're gonna get into more of that like in a little bit. And when you put people on a pedestal, you kind of like put them above you in that mental state. So then you're like already psyching yourself out before it even starts. I'm just like, oh man, I'm facing this really amazing Puerto Rican latte artist, coffee professional. I'm like, damn, what's gonna go down? Um, the first thing I tried to remember is like one thing that my good friend told me. He was like, yo, just go in there, no pressure, and just make believe you're making a coffee for a person you love. And this was before I started implementing like breathing techniques in coffee. So I was just like, all right, cool. Let me make this latte or this cappuccino because I was pouring in like a 5 ounce cup, like 6 ounce cup. Let me make this drink for somebody that I love. That's the mentality I had. And that kind of helped me like edge it out a bit. But I remember like mid three stack, because I did a wing four, mid three stack at the last one, I feel my like arm shaking nonstop. It's just vibrating like crazy. And then I'm like, oh man. So
Yeah.
literally mid pour, I had to like hold the pitcher up and kind of like move my hand under it because this hand is shaking, but this hand
Mm-hmm.
isn't. So at that point, I kind of realized, oh, I put myself in this predicament where like I'm shaking. It's never happened before, but I kind of got experience off of it because now I'm like, next time I shake, now I can just move my left hand to finish the cut through. And the cut through didn't come out as shaky as I thought because I did it with the left hand rather than the shaky right hand. Yeah, it was a crazy, and I ended up winning that round. It was like, oh man, I felt like I was on top of the world. I ran, I screamed, I called my mom. It was beautiful. It
Yes.
was so beautiful.
I think I
Uh,
kind of remember that a little bit. It's not too far back in,
no,
pre-pandemic.
no. Oh man, it was. Oh man, and just like those moments you put yourself in, like the unknown, right? I like to call it. That's the only way you can
Hmm.
evolve when you put yourself in those situations where like you're not used to. Because if we keep doing
Yeah.
the things that we repeatedly know, we don't ever like grow. So I put myself in a situation I've never been in, and I try my best to like stay well grounded, like keep my head leveled, and came up with that solution. But
Mm.
there's been times in Coffee Fest where I've tried that and it didn't work, and my cut through has gotten a little, I like slightly off the edge or to the right. But those things happen so we can learn and be better the next time.
You both showed up and put yourself in situations that were uncomfortable, and you created a space for yourself in front of the machine that was your space, and just did what you did best, and it turned out really well. I think there's a lesson there where Haley psyching yourself out, but then you just getting in the last minute and performing under that pressure. But in prof, just that idolizing latte artists and being young in that, and there's all sorts of pressure that a professional will put on themselves to
Mm,
say, I'm only going to show up if I do really, really well. And like there's a fear there, like you're afraid of showing up and people like making fun of you or whatever your brain is telling you is going to happen that's really, really bad. Embarrassment, right? And I think both of you could testify to the exact opposite, especially in coffee. Even if you didn't get through your rounds and do well, people act like you did.
yep.
They
Yep.
love that's what I love so much about latte art community and really a lot of the coffee community. There's so much support for people because, like you said, Prof, it's part of that journey to
Yeah.
push yourself. And you learn a lot, like you said. So that leads me to another question that I have here, which is the idea of what you've learned, or taking what you've learned and giving advice to other baristas and latte artists specifically within that category who want to maybe compete on Coffee Fest and put themselves out there in an uncomfortable situation to test their mettle and all of that fun stuff. So for each of you, what have you learned, and what advice would you give to these people as they move forward?
I think a piece of advice that's helped me, especially when I was actually preparing for St. Like, you want to have one thing that you know you're going to do really good at. And that's personally really helped me.
Mm,
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the other thing that, I mean, you learn it the first time you go. Like, a lot of everyone at that competition, whether you get in or you're an alternate, everyone there is really good. So, a lot of why a lot of this is just like a mind game, and you kind of have to like
mm,
get out of your head and do it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it can be really hard to do that and hard to explain how to do that, but a lot of it is mental. I mean, and that's just like what I tell people.
Right. So choosing one thing to do that you're really good at, you can do it in a lot of different situations, instead of trying to like be good at a ton of different designs or
Or something really complicated. Like if
hmm
you're trying to do something really complicated that you're like, well, I've done it once. Like
yeah. Oh
it's
yeah,
hard to do it repeatedly, especially in an extremely high pressure situation.
I've
So
lost a
Mhm.
couple that way trying to like pull out the big guns when I'm not even used to the weight of the big guns. I'm like,
right.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. And getting into the right mindset, I think it's probably different for everybody.
Mhm.
And it's really fun to see everybody evolve. As a judge, I get to see everybody's game face. Everyone's pacing, everyone's got rituals and the game face, the eye of the tiger, and all that. It's your personal journey, but it's definitely one you should put some thought into and do it on purpose. So that's really
Yep.
good
Yeah.
advice. Yeah,
Yep. Exactly.
Prof, I'm interested. What on your end have you learned, and what advice would you give?
Well, first, the things I've learned is so much, but I'm trying to like compact a few. The first one is just to be grateful in that moment and like not expect anything too much of yourself. Because if you're in that state of being grateful, you're just ready to receive, right? And if you're ready to receive, that means whatever happens, you'll be happy about it. And
Hmm.
sometimes when we put expectations on ourselves, we're already looking towards to the future when in reality nothing has happened yet. So we have to, like be grateful for the present, appreciate what's going on, and live in the moment. And that's how I kind of like get a little bit of the anxiety and like the jitters out the way. Just like really being happy that I'm in the room full of 64 of the most amazing, amazing latte artists. That alone just keeps me really, really happy. And
Yeah.
what I would also say is breathing. Like sometimes when we're in stressful situations, your body's flight or fight response basically either makes you stop breathing because you're in that stress. So you just like tighten up and sometimes you don't even do nothing. You just like people's faces go a little red. Some people's faces go a little pale. You gotta
Yeah.
like take those nice deep breaths to just allow all that airflow in your muscles to stop your jitters. And uh, one other thing I do, like a lot of times our hands get cold like as latte artists. I know a lot of people can definitely like say amen to that one. Like our hands get super cold right before a comp. So what I would do is I'll go to the bathroom and I'll like put really hot water on and I'll let my hands soak for a slight bit and just to like warm my
Wow.
hands up. Some people turn the steam
That's
wand
good
on and
advice.
put their hands. Oh, I got you. I got you. Some people turn on the steam wand and they heat their hands up. I've seen Steve do it. I've
Hmm.
seen my brother Ray do it. I've done it myself a few times. It just, and then those like shocks of heat and just like make yourself, oh, all right, yeah, we in this. Let's go. You know,
Hmm.
kind of like warm up, get ready. It's not like a boxing fight, but I like to put myself in that mentality. Like, you're not fighting your opponent. It's like you versus you.
Yeah.
You can only control what you do, and like all the amount of time we practice to like complete the perfect pour that we have in our heads. That's in our home, and it's like a big thing that always resonates in my mind. While I was getting ready for San Antonio, I had the sorry if I get a little had the like beautiful opportunity to have Daniel Lee stop the timer for me a few times while I was going through some runs,
Hmm.
and at the moment we had some like medium dark, medium lighter espresso. It wasn't too dark, so my pores weren't coming out as popping like in sense of like line clarity and contrast that I wanted. And I looked frustrated. So Daniel Lee looks at me and he goes, "Hey, Prof, it's not about how it looks because we know the milk's gonna be different and we know you're gonna have darker espresso." He's like, "It's the intention behind the pour." He told me if I keep doing a wing wing 5-1 that way, everything else is in the bag. He said just
Yeah.
intentionally pour it like you did at home. And stood in my head like pour with intention. Don't go in there and like second guess yourself. Like go in there with a game plan and intentionally pour. Talk to yourself while you pour. And these are the things that I've put like deep in my heart whenever I go compete. And
Hmm.
at the end of the day, we just want to have fun. You know, Winners are winners, and nobody's a loser. You only lose if you decide you lost, right? Everybody can be a winner. You can gain a little bit out of everything that we do. So just yeah.
That's great, and I love Daniel's advice there. He was very much a proponent of people having confidence in themselves and advocating for themselves. Anyone who had the pleasure of having a relationship with him and in knowing him would agree with that, I think. And you know, when you hear about you versus you, and you're in this group of 64 people, it might escape you that you're in that group. So if you think
Yep.
everyone's good, that means you think you're good too,
Yeah.
Exactly.
you know?
Exactly.
And
Yep.
paying attention and executing on those macro things, sometimes it just helps the micro stuff. Just it takes care of it, that confidence. And so I love that you shared that.
Yep.
Um, so as we wrap up here, I think we've probably could talk for a lot longer. We want to keep it to like 30 minutes or so on the stream. We have a smiley face submitted by Lane Tanaka here on the chat. And
Yo.
somebody's Haley Hayes said hello. So, yeah, Erica can't wait to see everybody at Coffee Fest in New York. So
Hey.
that is awesome. Um, I just want to tell everybody who's listening to this, who's watching this after the live stream, Coffee Fest is not just going to New York. We're going to Chicago, Los Angeles, and
Hey.
Seattle this year in 2022. So if you're wanting to take a step in the direction of latte arts, I mean, just pay attention to the Coffee Fest space, put your name out there. You never know what happens. Practice hard. Take these,
Apply.
yes,
Apply.
take their
Yes.
advice. Work hard, apply, put yourself out there. And even if you're not part of the latte art competition, hang out, be an alternate, right?
Be an
Yep.
alternate.
Be an
Both these guys
alternate,
are
please.
alternates. My gosh.
Exactly.
Awesome. So I think that's going to do it for our conversation. I really appreciate you both joining us, and a big thank you to our sponsors of this conversation, the Barista Series, and of course Slow Pour. We love them, and you should go check them out for sure. And of course, Coffee Fest. Go check them out at coffeefest.com, and follow Haley Henderson and Prof. Their information's right there at the bottom of your screen, and like I
Word.
said, you won't be sorry. So thank you both.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Chris.
much, Chris.